check this. This is the hard knock life, but not the chicken kind. More like the people in the world seeking perspective.
Welcome back to another live edition of Hard Knock Life. We are coming to you live from New York City in the basement of the former Pearl River Mart for CTRL+ALT from the Smithsonian, a pop-up museum that they've been doing here in New York City. I'm joined by the illustrious Jamal Igle.
Hey Keith, how's it going?
Welcome to CTRL+ALT.
Oh, my pleasure, man, my pleasure.
You are actually a part of this exhibit. Behind us, you can see you collaborated with Larry Hama.
Which was a thrill. Who doesn't want to work with Larry Hama?
Exactly. So can you talk a little bit about the piece you did?
Larry came up with this idea to do our version of the Disney character. So we have the prepubescent platypus patrol, try saying that 3 times fast, versus the plutocrats of Pluto. And when I got the script, and when Larry pitched the idea, I was just like, okay, I've never drawn in this style before. I'm really going to put everything that I have into trying to emulate Carl Barks and the old, Disney, Huey, Louie, and Dewey look. And it was fun. It was tough because like I said, I've never drawn. I'm not specifically known for doing really cartoony work. It was a challenge because it's a lot more difficult to emulate that style if you're not practiced at it.
Right. Well, it's funny because, as part of the CTRL+ALT exhibit, we've been doing these pieces where we're reinterpreting classic, iconic characters in science fiction and comics. And when I first envisioned Larry Hama and Jamal Igle working together, I thought it was going to be some military thing. It was but he's like, I have this Junior Woodchucks idea, and I was like. But then I was thinking I want to see how Jamal Igle draws Carl Barks.
Right. But that's, I like being challenged by stuff like that. And I took it as a real challenge and just said, you know what, I'm just going to go full bore and really try to do it. So I downloaded as many of the strips as I could find and had them all over my desk because I really wanted to emulate not just the style of the figures, but how when they run, they've got these little curly cue, sparks of dust that come out after them, and really just sort of, there's this very specific inking style to it as well. So it's very much more brush heavy instead of using pen, although, you have to use pen in some spots. But I tried to use brush as much as possible when I was working on the page. And again, it's the combination of the actual figure work, which is a very specific style. It's very round. It's a very seriously you wouldn't think that it is, but it's very round, and it's you're trying to have motion, and a sense of space and everything in there, and it was cool. It was cool to work on.
No, and it came out great, and it's an amazing piece.
Thank you.
But this is not the only thing you worked on, of course. One of the things I wanted to talk to you about is your own art. Creator-owned project, Molly Danger, from Action Lab. Can you talk, if people are not familiar with Molly Danger, can you tell me what it is, and then what can we expect for future installments of Molly Danger?
Molly Danger is the story of a 10-year-old superhero who's been 10 years old for 2 decades. So she's smart, strong, brave, possibly immortal, practically invulnerable. But she's also the loneliest little girl in the world. She doesn't have a secret identity. She doesn't have friends or family of her own. And she's slowly watched the people around her grow old and die and disappear or get killed. So she has this burden that sort of weighs on her. But at the same time, she is an optimistic character. She believes in fighting the good fight. She believes in justice. She believes in all the things that we're taught to believe in our entire lives. So the story of Molly Danger really ultimately comes down. To me it's a coming of age story. Mm-hmm. It's about this young girl who's still after all this time trying to find her place in the world. Right. And it's a combination of coming of age, but she's kind of a stage kid because she exists in this world where everything that she does is watched by the media. They've made movies about her, television series, there's toys, there's merch, there's everything. So she's a product as much as she is a hero. the city that she protects, which is Coopersville, New York, built its entire infrastructure over the last 20 years around Molly danger tourism. So so with the next volume, basically we kind of explore that idea a little bit more, like what she means to the city, what her presence means to the city, both the positive and the negative of it, because while she is seen as a hero by most people, the city government is not happy with her. They're not happy with the fact that the organization that she works with, which is called DART, Dangerous Action Response Team, is basically a domestic paramilitary organization operating on U.S. soil. Right. And the new mayor is not pleased with that idea
and that's
at
what's
all.
coming
That's what's coming up.
So it's also very meta in that sense, right? Like, because it is almost like a commentary on just how like superhero media has kind of
absolutely.
overtaken,
It's partially that. It's also, I'm fascinated by the cult of personality that we build around celebrities. I'm fascinated by the idea of having been a former actor myself, a former child actor. I'm always fascinated by stories of other child actors, like who survived and came through relatively unscathed, who gets lost along the way. And she's kind of this groomed stage kid, but she doesn't get any older. She doesn't mature the same way that other people do, but she tries to act older than she actually is. But then the kid in her comes out at the same time. So there's that balance that I'm trying to write as well.
And another like kind of meta aspect of the character Molly Danger is that it's a superhero story around this like female character that is something that unfortunately is still rare in the industry.
It's rare in the industry, and for the most part, it's a lot less rarer over the last few years.
Sure.
And we're starting to kind of break away from that mold, but the majority of female characters in comics are still sort of relegated to eye candy or relegated to being the sexually provocative or and it's weird because there's this sort of pushback at the same time. Like, every step that
we talking about particular people, but we shall not name them.
We shall not name. But for every step that you take towards, having a Kamala Khan or a Molly Danger, you get people who, push against the idea of female superheroes being anything less than sexy. Like, even when I worked on Supergirl, it's kind of the same thing. We had this whole backlash from a portion of the fan base who hated the idea that we put shorts under her skirt, instead of, and they, like, that one little, piece of article of clothing was suddenly an anathema to them.
Right.
So it's very, that balance, we want comics in general to be greater. We want to be more inclusive. We want to have everybody have a voice and a place, and a safe space. But then you have all of these people who are fighting against those ideas of there being more characters of color, or there being more female characters who aren't just simply there to titillate male readers.
Right. Well, and unfortunately, that backlash has grown beyond comics. Although, we shall not talk about him either.
Right.
But I do think that like the America we live in now has kind of been something that as SJW comics folks, we've kind of seen firsthand.
Oh no, I have probably taken a new. I'm not a SJW. I'm not a social justice warrior. I am a social justice warlord.
There you go.
Exactly.
I like that one.
I'm not in the pack. I'm gonna run.
Hey.
I'm gonna be in front of the pack.
We will follow you. Well, and one other thing I wanted to talk about beyond, in kind of this idea of like social justice warriors and PC comics and things like that is another project that you've been working on.
Yes.
It was a project that was kickstarted that unfortunately is always going to be timely, but it's even more timely than when it came out. And it's a project called Black. Can you talk a little bit about Black and your co-creators on that?
Yes, I'm working with Kwanzaa Safajo, who used to be an editor at both Marvel and DC, and that's where I met Kwanzaa. Kwanzaa also was the primary force behind the Zuda imprint as well. And he's writing it. It's being designed by Tim Smith III, who's a very talented illustrator. I'm penciling the book with help from my partners, Steve Walker, Robin Riggs, who worked with me on Zatanna and Supergirl at various periods. He's inking the book. We have a colorist named Sarah Stern who's moved on. We have another colorist coming in. I'm blanking on her name right now. I'm so sorry.
It's okay. Wait, can you tell what is Black about, and then how is it such a timely story to tell right now?
Black is it's a very simple concept. It is a world where a small portion of African Americans and other black people have the ability to get superpowers, and it's all science-based. It's based on different quirks, and each quirk affects a person differently, but it's not publicly known. It's, there's an entire conspiracy about it. The government is involved, private business is involved. There's, sort of an underground railroad aspect to the whole thing, and it's, we like to think of it as sort of the X-Men done right. In a lot of ways.
Doesn't have to be metaphor now, right?
There's no metaphor about it at all. We are very upfront and very blunt about our mission statement.
And you guys are self-publishing because you funded it through Kickstarter.
We funded it through Kickstarter. It's being published through Black Mass Studios in print, but there's also going to be a Kickstarter version of the collected graphic novel as well.
Was that always the case to do it like independently? Was there the worry that if you pitched it to a larger publisher, they'd be like, "This is great"? Did they have to be black?
No. I think Kwanzaa, when Kwanzaa pitched me the project initially, it was very much going to be, we're going to self-publish this, we're going to print this, and then we, once the Kickstarter got as big as it did, we started being approached by pretty much every publisher in the industry. So nobody, at that point, there wasn't, anyone who was saying, do you have to do it this way? And I think working with a company like Black Mask, which is a very, very socially conscious, like all of the projects that they do have a very modern, new world slant to them. It's not comics as usual.
Right.
So doing it through Black Mask, who is 100% on board with what we're doing, it makes it easier for us to tell the story the way that we want to tell it, and it's uncompromising and it's unflinching.
Yeah. So how can listeners and viewers of Hard Knock Life, how can they find copies of Black on?
Black #2 just came out. Black #1 we did a second printing, and that's in stores as well. Black #3 will be out in December. You can go to blacksuperpowers.com. You can follow me at jamaligle.com, or you can find me on social media under Jamal Igle, or you can look up Black Superpowers on Twitter and on Facebook.
Awesome. And then, but the book should be available at every.
The book is available. It's out.
Distributed.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being a part of Control Alt. Thank you for being, the platypus prepubescent.
My pleasure.
Danger. Thank you for Black. Thank you for thank you for being an outspoken person in the comics industry, because I think, and we've seen over the last few days a lot of ugly stuff coming out of the woodwork, that we need people like you that will take a stand against that.
Well,
we will follow you as a social justice warlord.
I think, as we were talking about before, I think since I left DC. And really primarily stuck to doing my own stuff over the last couple of years, I've found more of my own voice and more of a freedom to be able to speak out about those things that I believe in, and argue with the people about the things that I believe in, and question what they believe in, and even question myself, because it's not easy, it's not simple. I said this about, I woke up and I realized a couple of days, not even like a week ago, before the election, I just came to this realization that I still struggle every day with the complexity of who I am as a person, and I think everybody does. So life isn't that simple, but it's easier for me to say, okay, I struggle with, I question A, B, and C because things are changing so much. And I know other people want to know that they're not alone in that struggle. So that's where I am.
But we And we thank you for that. So again, my man, thank you so much.
My pleasure.
And thank you for tuning in to Hard Knock Life. We're going to be here, Control Alt, for the entire weekend. Find Jamal Igle on Twitter and all over the internet. And we'll see you next time.
Well, it's the NOC in full color, you see me? The Hard Knock Life, comics, movies, and TV, yo. Pop culture with a different perspective. Watch it on your screen, hit play, so check this. This is the Hard Knock Life, but not the chica kind. More like the people in the world seeking perspectives with a different line. The kids who share their interests together with a similar kind. When they said John Glover for Spider-Man, they didn't mind. The activists, directors, comments, and the lectures. Fanboys, professional artists, and professors. Maybe a nerd who's just like you, talking about the things that you like too. So I invite you to the NOC in full color, you see me? The Hard Knock